The other story about St. Francis of Assisi Parish that I would like to mention is about a young man, a parishioner there, named Manuel Perez, who decided to serve in World War II. And this is his story.
Though the name and deeds of Manuel Perez Jr. are most likely unfamiliar to you, that is not the case for Stephen Torres.
Without him, I wouldn't be alive. I would be dead. He picked me out from the battlefield. After I had been there, I had been down for maybe 15, 20 minutes.
It was in February of 1945, during intense fighting to retake Manila, capital city of the Philippines, that a 21-year-old Chicagoan showed a part of his character none had seen before.
When you saw him, he didn't appear any different from anybody else in terms of his heroic potential, did he?
No, who did? In fact, turned that around. Some guy who had the most swagger and bravado and were sharpening their trench knives, bayonets. Those were the guys that never did anything.
In them days, nobody called anybody by their first name, because it was their last name. Like, never call a Manuel. It's a hey Perez or hey Pollock or hey Hedges or whatever, you know. That's the way we called one another.
Perez had a nickname.
Babalu.
Babalu was composed in 1939. Desi Arnaz popularized the song in the 1940s.
And I always think about that Babalu, and I think of Perez. And no matter whatever happened, he would Babalu, and then he would jump like a dance.
September 2nd, Saturday, went to work, then came home.
Dion Perez Miller, Manuel Perez's closest surviving relative in Chicago, reads from a diary that Manuel kept in 1939 and 1940 when he was about 16.
He talks about taking his grandmother to church every day, himself going to Mass with some frequency.
Manuel Perez was a skinny kid, born in Oklahoma City but raised in Chicago by his father and grandmother. He worshipped at St. Francis of Assisi Church at Roosevelt and Halstead, where he was noted as the founder of the Parish Bicycle Club. He attended Crane High School. He worked at the best foods plant on the southwest side that made Hellman's mayonnaise. Manuel Perez had a girlfriend named Mary Torres. They met at a wedding. Mary Torres was said to be one of the most beautiful young women in the St. Francis of Assisi parish. Mary and Manuel were engaged, but in January of 1943, he was drafted. The list of young men from St. Francis of Assisi parish who served in the military during the Second World War seems almost endless. All told, roughly 300 answered the call, and in many families, more than one son served. So many were in the service that the parish began to publish a monthly newsletter, the St. Francis of Assisi Crier. From time to time, items mentioning Manuel Perez appeared. He became a paratrooper, a member of Company A of the 511th Parachute Infantry. It's a safe bet that most of these paratroopers had never been in an airplane prior to their first jump. Perez, in the course of his training, was designated a lead scout who would be in the vanguard as his platoon advanced. Steve Torres, whose life he would one day save, was likewise designated to be on the point.
That's what most of our friendship started and stayed with us in the Head Scout.
Toward the end of 1943, Private First Class Manuel Perez returned to Chicago for the last time. There were rounds of picture-taking. This snapshot shows him with Mary Torres. Then Perez was off to the Pacific, where island by island, the Allies were gradually retaking the territory lost to the enemy in the early days of the war. That's when enemy fire hit Steve Torres. He probably would not have survived had not Manuel Perez, his fellow scout, come to his aid.
I was just gushing blood all over with muscles all over me. And then he came over. And the first time I heard, I couldn't see very well. I was too weak because I lost too much blood. And he said, "Torres, you're hit real bad. He said, I'm going to try to take you to the aid station. And that's about a block and a half back and on a railroad junction. And I said, I don't know if I'll be able to hang on. I said, I'm real weak. He said, don't worry, I'll hold you, and you hang on to my neck. And we ran about that whole block and a half until we went to the aid station. And on the aid station, he dropped me there, and that's when the medics got a hold of me.
Pettis then grabbed Torres's grenades and other ammunition.
He said, Torres, I'm going to get him.
Apparently driven by the desire to avenge his wounded friend, Manuel Perez ran toward the source of enemy fire, beginning what seemed to his comrades like a suicide mission.
I looked to my left, and there was Manuel Perez. He had thrown a grenade or two into this open pillbox, and he climbed up and he shot into it. And that's the last I saw of him.
Max Pollock, Perez's sergeant, witnessed most of what Perez did next.
He just got up there and started going around to these pillboxes, and he'd throw hand grenades in, and every once in a while he'd hop up on top of one of them.
A number of the pillboxes and the Japanese soldiers inside became the object of Perez's wrath.
How many did you see him shoot?
Oh, I don't know, probably a dozen anyway, you know. Because we was busy doing other things, but at least a dozen. We see him up on top of the pillbox a lot. And when he would get up there, he'd hold his finger and his thumb together and make a circle like that, you know, that I guess he was saying everything's okay, or I'm getting him, or whatever.
Miraculously, Perez survived the day. Later press accounts claimed he'd killed as many as 75 Japanese soldiers in his frenzy. The official Army citation credited him with 18 enemy deaths.
That night when it was all over, what was the reaction?
Unbelief, disbelief.
He'd done stuff that we would never even think of doing, I don't believe. You know, what energized him to do all of this, I don't know. But he just took it upon himself to do it.
The enemy, of course, had witnessed Perez's deeds, and as a consequence of them, he became a marked man.
Clearly, you know, when someone shows that they're not afraid of you, that they have no fear in their heart of what it is that you can do to them, then that person becomes a dangerous person. And so I'm sure that they realized they needed to take this guy out.
A month later, on March 14th, as Manuel Perez was covering the withdrawal of his comrades on a road near the town of San Tomas, a Japanese bullet found its mark.
His luck just ran out on him. I could hear him moaning, you know, that he was hurt. And so he said we ought to try to go get him, but we said, no, you can't go. Our officers pulled us back and said we can't advance because there's just too many of them.
In a list of casualties released on April 18th, the name of Manuel Perez was the first on the list of recent Army deaths in the Pacific, but no details were published at that point. It was not until July of 1945 that details reached Chicago of Manuel Perez's heroic deeds, along with the news that he would be posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. All the Chicago newspapers reported his story, drawing on the account that Sergeant Max Pollock had given the United Press. Most of the pieces about Perez focused on Mary Torres, his fiancée. She had planned to make her wedding dress from one of his parachutes, she told the Tribune. What did she have to remember him by? A shell necklace, a tiny diamond, and hundreds of letters. The strongest reaction to the stories of Manuel Perez's heroism came from those who read the St. Francis of Assisi Crier, for most of them had known him personally.
Believe me, the people did not really recognize, we were young kids, how high that award was until later on that we start finding out that's the highest award you can get in the United States. I mean, it was really something.
In 1946, an American Legion post was established in Little Village in Perez's honor. His father and grandmother were on hand for its dedication. In 1981, a plaza at 26th and Colon was named in his memory. The name of Manuel Perez was also given to a new elementary school on West 19th Street. Perez is memorialized in the lobby. His pre-war diary remains in the hands of his family here, and some who have read it believe that it's fully consistent with the hero Manuel Perez became.
I think that loyalty that he had to his family and to his neighborhood He conveyed that when he was with his unit in the Philippines.
But it's Stephen Torres who speaks with greatest authority about the character of Manuel Perez.
The heroics about Perez that can be said over and over again in truth was that he hurt to see his friends go down in battle.
And that might mean that Manuel Perez was a hero not because he took the lives of so many of the enemy, but because he saved the life of one of his friends. This is Rich Samuels.